She spent every day fighting the rich, certain they'd never understand the struggles of ordinary people. But everything changed the day she met him, a kind stranger who volunteered at her shelter. She let herself trust him, only to discover he was the very billionaire she'd sworn to destroy. Could a man born in luxury and a woman born in hardship ever find common ground? Or would their worlds tear them apart forever? Stay with us for a story that will break your heart and restore your faith in love. Watch now and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that prove love can change even the hardest hearts. Layla wiped sweat from her forehead as she stood on the courthouse steps, her voice hoarse from hours of shouting. Around her, people held cardboard signs reading, "People over profits," and "End greed now." The hot afternoon sun beat down on them, but their anger burned hotter. Layla raised her megaphone. "They take everything from us, our homes, our jobs, our futures, and they call it business." She cried, her voice cracking with raw emotion. The crowd roared. Her heart pounded with a mix of rage and hope. She felt alive when she was fighting, but deep inside, she also felt tired. Tired of watching families evicted. Tired of seeing kids go hungry while billionaires bought new yachts. Each night she lay awake in her small apartment, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering if her protests even mattered. Today she was especially angry at one man, Nathan Hale, the billionaire developer who wanted to bulldoze the community center, where she taught free classes to kids. She imagined his smug face in a suit behind some glass tower, never seeing the suffering his deals caused. In her heart, she hated him. After the protest, Layla walked home past boarded-up shops and families struggling to carry groceries. She greeted neighbors, offering warm smiles despite the ache in her chest. A little girl ran up to hug her legs. "Miss Layla, will you come read to us tomorrow?" she asked, eyes bright with hope. Layla's voice softened. "Of course. Sweetheart, I'll always be here." As she climbed the stairs to her tiny apartment, she paused at her mailbox, full of unpaid bills, eviction notices, and desperate letters from families asking for help. Her hands shook as she sorted through them, her resolve hardening like steel. She slammed the mailbox shut and whispered to herself, "I don't care how rich he is. I won't let Nathan Hale take what little we have left." Layla stared at the darkening sky, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I have to keep fighting," she thought. For them, for everyone who can't fight for themselves. She didn't know yet that the man she hated most was about to step into her life and turn her world upside down. Nathan Hale sat alone in his sleek, glass-walled office high above the city. The room was quiet except for the ticking of a luxury watch on his wrist. Outside, the skyline glowed with 1,000 lights, each one a symbol of his success. He had everything he could ever want, but tonight, none of it made him feel proud. His assistant had sent him a link. A viral video of a young woman shouting at one of his project sites. Nathan clicked it, expecting to roll his eyes, but instead he found himself staring at the screen, unable to look away. There she was, Layla. She stood in front of bulldozers with fire in her eyes and tears on her cheeks. She talked about hungry children, evicted families, and the greed of people like him. Her words weren't polite or careful. They were raw, full of pain and truth. Nathan felt a strange ache in his chest as he watched. No one ever spoke to him like that. Everyone in his world was careful, fake afraid of his power, but she wasn't. She looked straight into the cameras, like she was staring at him personally, and told the world he was the villain. He watched the video 3 times. When it ended, he sat in the dark, replaying her voice in his head. How could someone hate me so much? He wondered, and why does it matter so much that she does? He opened his laptop and pulled up everything he could find about Layla. News clips, social media posts, articles about her protests. He read about how she grew up in the neighborhood his company wanted to redevelop, how she'd started a community center to help kids after her mother died in that same neighborhood. Nathan leaned back in his chair, heart heavy. He remembered walking those same streets as a teenager before his father's money whisked him away. He knew what it felt like to go to bed hungry. He had tried to forget, but Layla's words brought it all back. He picked up his phone and called his driver. "Get the car," he said, his voice low and determined. "I'm going to the community center, and don't tell anyone." As he ended the call, he looked at the frozen image of Layla on his screen. Her eyes were full of rage, and something else he couldn't name. He knew he had to see her in person, even if it meant facing the hatred he had spent his life avoiding. Nathan's black SUV rolled to a quiet stop outside the old brick building that housed the community center. The sign above the door was chipped and faded, but kids' laughter drifted through the cracked windows. He hesitated, his hand on the car door. He had walked into countless boardrooms and faced powerful enemies, But tonight, his heart pounded like a drum. He wore plain jeans, a simple gray hoodie, and a baseball cap pulled low. No one would recognize him as Nathan Hale, billionaire developer. Tonight he was just Nate. As he stepped inside, the warm light and smell of homemade soup wrapped around him. The place was old but alive. Colorful drawings lined the walls. Books overflowed from shelves, and volunteers moved quickly to serve food to families sitting on mismatched chairs. And there she was, Layla, standing behind a folding table, ladling soup into paper bowls. She looked tired but fierce, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled up. Her eyes sparkled with determination as she comforted a crying child, wiping the little girl's cheeks with a napkin. Nathan's chest tightened. She's even more incredible in person, he thought, unable to look away. He cleared his throat and stepped up to the table. "Hi," he said quietly, forcing his voice to sound casual. "I'm Nate. I heard you needed volunteers." Layla looked up, surprised. Her eyes softened for a brief moment before returning to cautious suspicion. "We always need hands," she said, handing him an apron. "Can you wash dishes or serve food?" "Anything," he replied, slipping the apron over his head. Their hands brushed for a second, sending a jolt through both of them. She pulled back quickly, eyes narrowing just a bit. Nathan spent the evening washing endless stacks of dishes, wiping tables, and hauling boxes of supplies. He watched Layla every chance he got, how she bent down to talk to children, how she comforted the elderly, how her face lit up when she made someone smile. He felt something he hadn't felt in years, alive. Later, as the families began to leave, and the center quieted, Layla sank into a chair, exhausted. Nathan hesitated, then brought her a cup of tea he found in the small kitchen. "You're amazing," he said softly. "What you're doing here, it matters." Layla looked up, surprised by his gentle tone. For a moment their eyes locked, and something unspoken passed between them, something warm and dangerous. But then she blinked, walls going back up. "It's just survival," she said flatly. "This place is all we have left, and men like Nathan Hale want to take even this away." Nathan swallowed hard, hiding the sting of her words. "Maybe not everyone with money wants to hurt you," he said carefully. She sighed, looking away. "We'll see about that." Nathan realized then that this wasn't just a project anymore. It was the beginning of something that could change everything for her and for him. Over the next few days, Nathan kept coming back to the community center, still undercover as Nate. He showed up early to sweep the floors and stayed late to fix broken chairs. Layla couldn't deny he was a hard worker, but every time their eyes met, sparks flew. One afternoon, Layla was helping a group of kids with homework when she heard raised voices near the kitchen. She walked in to find Nate arguing with one of the other volunteers, an older man named Mr. Torres. "We can't just patch the roof again," Nate was saying firmly. "It needs to be replaced or the whole building will be unsafe." "With what money?" Mr. Torres snapped. "We barely keep the lights on as it is." Layla stepped between them, her eyes blazing. "Nate, this isn't a corporate project. We don't have investors waiting to throw money at us." Nathan's frustration boiled over. "But you can't just do nothing. Don't you want these kids to be safe?" His voice cracked with emotion he didn't mean to show. Layla's breath caught. His words stung because she did want better, desperately. But reality felt like an unbreakable wall. "We want a lot of things," she said quietly, "but wishing doesn't pay for a new roof." They stood inches apart, breathing hard. Eyes locked, the air felt electric with anger and something neither dared name. "I'm sorry," Nathan said after a long silence, his voice softer. "I just hate seeing this place fall apart." Layla's eyes searched his, seeing a flicker of something real behind the frustration. "So do I," she whispered, her shoulders slumped, exhaustion and fear creeping back into her face. "But fighting for scraps is all we've ever known." That evening they worked side by side without speaking. Layla bandaged a boy's scraped knee, while Nathan quietly replaced loose floorboards. Their eyes met every so often, tense, questioning, drawn to each other even when they tried to resist. As the last family left, Layla found herself standing in the doorway, watching Nate sweep up crumbs. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked softly. He looked up, eyes shadowed with something she couldn't read. "Because I can't stand the thought of you fighting alone." Layla's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly looked away. "Don't be foolish," she warned herself. "Men like him always leave, always." But deep down, she was already beginning to hope, and that terrified her more than anything. Days turned into weeks, and Nate became a familiar sight at the community center. The kids cheered when he arrived, racing to greet him with hugs and laughter. Layla couldn't deny how good he was with them, patient, kind, and able to coax shy smiles from the most withdrawn child. One evening, Layla was cleaning up after a crowded dinner, and she found Nate fixing a broken bookshelf. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing strong arms, and his hair fell into his eyes as he worked. For a moment, she just stood there, heart beating too fast, watching him. He looked up and caught her staring. A slow smile spread across his face. "You know," he said gently, "if you stare any longer, I'll start to think you like me." Layla rolled her eyes, but her cheeks warmed. "Don't flatter yourself," she muttered, but her lips curved despite herself. That night, after the kids had gone home, they sat together on the creaky old couch in the reading room. Layla told Nate about her mother, who had died of an illness they couldn't afford to treat. She explained how the community center was all she had left of her mother's dream to help their neighborhood. Nate listened quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. When she finished, he reached out, covering her hand with his. His touch was warm and steady. "Your mom would be proud of you," he said softly. Layla's eyes shimmered with tears she quickly wiped away. "You don't know that," she whispered, her voice trembling. He squeezed her hand gently. "I do," he insisted, "because I'm proud of you and I barely know you." A comfortable silence settled between them as they listened to the sounds of the city drifting through the open window. Distant laughter, a car horn, the hum of life continuing outside. Layla realized how easy it felt to sit beside him. How safe, and that scared her more than any threat to the community center. Later, as they walked out together into the warm night, Nate hesitated under a flickering street lamp. "Layla," he began, his voice low, "I need you to know something." But before he could finish, a car passed, its headlights sweeping over them. Layla shook her head quickly, breaking the moment. "Good night." "Nate," she said softly, hurrying inside before he could see the tears threatening to spill. As she closed the door behind her, she pressed her back against it, her heart aching. Why does he make me feel like this? She thought, why does he make me want to believe in something I know I can't have? Outside, Nathan stood alone in the quiet street, staring up at the dark windows of the community center. He clenched his fists, torn between the truth he carried and the fear of losing the only woman who had ever made him feel truly seen. Nathan knew every moment he spent with Layla made it harder to hide who he truly was. Each day it became more dangerous, because each day he fell more in love. Meanwhile, Layla's best friend, Jasmine, grew suspicious of the mysterious volunteer who never talked about his past. One evening after dinner service, Jasmine pulled Layla aside in the empty kitchen. "Who is he, Layla?" Jasmine asked. Eyes sharp, "He's too polished, too different." Layla sighed, rubbing her temples. "I don't know," she admitted softly, "but he's kind and he's helping." Jasmine crossed her arms. "Or maybe he's pretending. What if he's spying for the developers?" She warned, "You know they'll do anything to get this place torn down." The words sent a cold shiver through Layla. Could Nate really be hiding something? She wondered, remembering the times his eyes darkened when she mentioned Nathan Hale. That night, as Layla closed up alone, she found Nate still fixing a leaky faucet. She leaned against the doorway, watching him work. "You never talk about your life before you came here," she said quietly. "Why is that?" Nathan's hand froze on the wrench. He looked up, eyes shadowed. "What if I told you I was trying to leave my old life behind?" he said carefully. Layla stepped closer, her face a mix of curiosity and caution. "Everyone has a past, Nate, but secrets can destroy everything." Before he could answer, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen and his face paled. It was his assistant, sending an urgent message. The board had voted to move ahead with the development, and demolition notices would be delivered to the community center within days. He felt his heart drop into his stomach. "I have to stop this," he thought desperately, but he knew he couldn't reveal who he was without losing Layla forever. Meanwhile, Jasmine watched from the hallway. Unnoticed, she caught a glimpse of the message on Nate's phone. Hale Holdings board final vote passed. Her eyes widened in shock. Hale Holdings, she thought, is he. The fragile trust between Nathan and Layla was about to crack, and neither of them knew how much time they had left before the truth came crashing down. The next morning, Layla arrived at the community center to find the staff in chaos. Jasmine had gathered everyone, waving a printout of the message she'd seen on Nate's phone. "Layla, he's been lying," she shouted, her voice shaking with fury. "His real name is Nathan Hale. He's the billionaire trying to destroy this place." Layla's world tilted. The paper slipped from her hands as she read the words. Hale Holdings board final vote passed. Her knees went weak. No, it can't be true. But deep down, she realized the pieces fit. His careful words, the way he knew how to fix everything, the shadow in his eyes. Whenever she mentioned Nathan Hale. Just then, the doors opened, and Nathan walked in. eyes lighting up as he spotted Layla until he saw the room full of angry faces. His smile faded instantly. Layla stepped forward, her face pale. Voice trembling, "Is it true?" she asked, holding up the paper. "Are you Nathan Hale?" Nathan swallowed hard, his heart in his throat. He looked into her eyes, eyes he had come to love more than anything, and knew he couldn't lie anymore. "Yes," he whispered hoarsely, "I am." A gasp rippled through the room. Layla's face crumpled, her eyes filling with tears. "You lied to me," she choked out, her voice breaking. "You lied every day while you stood here pretending to care." "I do care," Nathan pleaded, stepping toward her. "I came here to see why you hated me, but I stayed because I fell in love with you. Layla, you changed everything." She shook her head, stepping back as tears streamed down her cheeks. "No," she sobbed. "You're just like every other rich man who thinks he can buy whatever he wants." "Layla, please," Nathan tried to say, but she cut him off, her voice sharp and shaking. "Get out," she whispered. "I don't ever want to see you here again." For a long, heavy moment, Nathan stood frozen, his heart shattering in his chest. Then he turned and walked out the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. The kids' drawings on the walls blurred through his tears. As the door slammed behind him, the sound echoed like the end of everything he had ever hoped for. Layla collapsed into Jasmine's arms, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Around her, the volunteers stood silent, the dream of the community center feeling more fragile than ever. And the man she had dared to love was gone. The day after the reveal, Layla walked through the quiet community center like a ghost. Toys lay untouched, tables were still set from last night's dinner, and the children's laughter was gone. Everywhere she looked reminded her of Nate, of Nathan, and the lies that had broken her heart. Meanwhile, Nathan sat in his penthouse office, staring blankly at the city skyline. He hadn't slept. His phone buzzed with calls from board members celebrating the vote to demolish the center and build luxury condos. But he ignored them all. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Layla's face twisted with betrayal. He couldn't take it anymore. He rushed out of his office, ignoring the shocked looks of his staff, and headed straight to the community center. When he arrived, the door was locked, but he knocked until it opened. Layla stood there, eyes red from crying, her expression cold. "Please, Layla," he begged, his voice raw. "Just listen to me." She crossed her arms, holding herself like she was trying not to fall apart. "Why should I? You lied to me every day you stood beside me." Nathan's shoulders sagged. "I know I did. I was wrong, but you have to believe me. I never came here to hurt you. I came because I wanted to understand. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you." Layla's breath caught, but she quickly looked away. "Don't say that," she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes again. "Love doesn't lie." Nathan stepped forward, desperate. "I know you don't trust me, but let me prove it. I'll do anything to save this place. I'll stop the project. I'll fight my own board. I'll give you the building, just don't shut me out." Her eyes snapped up, full of fury and pain. "You think you can fix this with money?" She cried. "This was never about money. It's about trust, and you broke it." Nathan reached out like he could hold her together if he just tried hard enough. But she stepped back, shaking her head. "Please, Layla," he said softly, his voice breaking. "I need you." She pressed a trembling hand to her chest, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Then you should have thought of that before you lied to me," she whispered. She closed the door, leaving him alone on the dark street, the neon sign of the community center flickering weakly above him. He leaned his head against the door, grief tearing through him. For the first time in years, Nathan Hale, the man who could buy anything, realized there was something his money could never fix: a broken heart. Nathan spent the next day pacing his office like a man possessed. His board was furious. Investors were threatening lawsuits, but none of it mattered. The only thing he cared about was saving the community center and proving to Layla that he wasn't the man she thought he was. He called an emergency meeting, storming into the boardroom with eyes blazing. "Effective immediately," he announced, voice steady and cold. "The Hale Holdings development project on the east side is canceled." Gasps and shouts filled the room. One executive stood. "Nathan, you can't do this. The contracts are signed." Nathan slammed a folder of papers on the table. "I can and I will," he growled. "I own controlling shares, and I'd rather lose every cent than destroy that community." Someone muttered, "He's lost his mind." Nathan ignored them. He had never felt more clear-headed. That afternoon, he drew up legal documents transferring full ownership of the community center's land and building to Layla's nonprofit. He signed them with shaking hands, a fierce determination in his chest. As the sun began to set, he arrived at the community center. He found Layla outside, boarding up windows in preparation for eviction. She looked up, eyes wary and red from crying. He approached slowly, heart hammering. "I'm sorry it took me this long," he said quietly, holding out the papers. "This is yours now. No one can ever take it from you again." Layla stared at the documents, her mouth falling open. Her hands trembled as she took them, reading the words again and again. You did this," she whispered. "I meant what I said," Nathan replied softly. "I'll fight for you, Layla. I'll fight for what you care about, even if you never forgive me." Tears slipped down her cheeks. She looked up at him, seeing the man who had scrubbed floors with her, fixed broken toys and wiped children's tears. The man who had tried, in his own clumsy way, to protect what she loved. In the golden light of dusk, with the community center standing tall behind them, Layla took a shaky step forward. "Why would you risk everything?" she asked, her voice breaking. He reached for her hand, eyes shimmering. "Because I love you," he whispered, "and nothing else matters." Layla stood frozen, Nathan's words echoing in her heart. "I love you." She looked down at the signed papers in her hands, proof of everything he had risked, his reputation, his company, his entire world, just to protect hers. For the first time in weeks, she let herself see past the betrayal, past the lies, to the man who had swept floors beside her and made children laugh, the man who had chosen her people over his profits. Her heart swelled with emotions she had tried so hard to fight. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I don't know if I can trust you completely yet, but I can see you're trying." He stepped closer, hope flickering in his eyes. "I'll spend every day proving it to you," he promised, his voice raw and low. Their hands found each other, fingers intertwining. Tears streamed down Layla's cheeks, but for the first time, they were tears of relief. She reached up and cupped his face, feeling the warmth of him, the reality of him. Slowly, she stood on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft and hesitant at first, but soon deepened, full of unspoken apologies and promises. Around them, the quiet street seemed to sigh with peace. Inside the community center, children pressed their faces to the windows, giggling and whispering. Jasmine peeked out the door, her eyes wide with surprise, then softened with a smile. Days later, they held a community celebration in the center's courtyard. Lanterns hung from trees, music played, and neighbors gathered with laughter and dancing. Nathan stood beside Layla, helping serve food, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his face happier than anyone had ever seen. As the night drew to a close, Layla took the microphone and called for silence. She looked around at her friends, the children, and finally at Nathan. "This place is more than just walls and a roof," she said, her voice strong. "It's hope. And today, we proved that even the richest heart can learn to care." The crowd erupted in cheers. Nathan pulled her into his arms as fireworks lit up the sky above them. He held her close, their eyes meeting with love and quiet joy. In that moment, they both knew it wasn't about rich or poor anymore. It was about two people who had found each other, and a future they would build together, side by side. Months later, the community center thrived like never before. The roof was repaired, classrooms were freshly painted, and a new library corner held books donated by people inspired by Layla and Nathan's story. Families came not just for help, but to share laughter and hope. Layla and Nathan worked side by side, planning after-school programs, creating job training workshops, and organizing neighborhood events. They learned to lean on each other, to talk about fears and dreams, to heal from old wounds. One sunny afternoon, Nathan brought Layla to the park where they'd first talked honestly about their lives. He set up a small picnic, took her hands, and looked into her eyes with a soft smile. "I don't just want to save your world," he whispered, voice shaking. "I want to be your world. Will you marry me?" Layla's tears spilled over as she nodded. "Yes," she breathed, laughing through her tears, as their friends and neighbors gathered around. Cheering, the children they loved so much ran between them, their giggles echoing into the sunset. Together, they had proven love can bridge any divide, and that the richest hearts are the ones brave enough to change. Thank you for watching this story of love, redemption, and second chances. If it touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications, so you never miss another story that reminds us all, love can heal anything. Share this with someone who believes true love can conquer all.